Yes, sir. Hello. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. I want to thank the Post-Gazette. It's really an honor to be with these folks here tonight. I'm really tickled. I'm really looking forward to this evening. My two passions in life have always been the arts, primarily music and painting, and also civil rights history, diversity, as it were, bringing people together. Bringing people together through the arts has been my mission for years now. I first was captivated maybe as an 8-year-old boy in my grandmother's house. She had one of those big Time Life magazines on her coffee table. I always tell the story because I remember looking at those images and just being riveted to the images of the civil rights movement. And at that age, I didn't know exactly what I was looking at, but I had that real deep sense that this was really important and was really drawn to it. And as I got a little bit older and learned about Dr. King and Malcolm X and Rosa Parks and all these folks and the everyday folks in quotes who were marching, and the white people and black people and other people coming together in the civil rights movement, I started to just think about the amount of courage it would take to do that. Seemed surreal to me. It seemed like I couldn't understand how a real person, not a movie person, but like a real person could have the requisite courage to do what they were doing at that time. So those are my two passions. And over the years, I've combined them. My visual art is a self-portrait up here that they put up here, and then the flag right there is my diversity flag, as it were. And that's now the logo for my current project, which is conversationwe.com. It's started a speaker series. Since the fall, we've been doing it here in one other city in Cambridge, Mass. We did more recently. And it's part of a book project called The Conversation We Could Be Having. I've done these workshops using music and the arts for years across the country as these catalysts or different kind of energy as a way into this dialogue around race relations. And then, I'm not an author per se. I'm an artist and a musician, but all this content over the years just really seemed to just be asking to be written. These ideas that emerged after just wrestling with this content for so long and doing this work. So I started writing a book a couple years ago, and I'm working on it currently, and it's called The Conversation We Could Be Having. And conversationwe.com is sort of the place for that, with the speaker series, with the different guests, and the book project, and the whole concept. And I guess I just briefly wanted to just share the core idea with this conversation we could be having. And the premise is, I think whether you think that we talk about race too much or not enough in this country, it's this idea that I believe that there's this whole other conversation we could be having that we're not even having. And I think it's very powerful. I think we're perhaps looking at a real opportunity right now at this moment in history. I like to say there's this zeitgeist brewing. And what I've discovered is, doing this work, is what I like to call this hidden demographic. There's a hidden demographic of folks out there who really would like to engage around the topic of race, and not just to talk about justice issues, and typically how we think about talking about race relations and what's wrong, and then not just to talk about sort of the sharing of diversity coming together and cultural diversity and what's right, but to have this other conversation. But you know what? This whole hidden demographic, you may fit into that. Some of you may. It's so many people I've talked to. What's out there now doesn't seem to resonate. Like, in terms of they go to an event and they don't feel like they're a quote activist. They go, if they're white, they learn about white privilege, and then they sort of might feel vaguely guilty for being white, but then feel confused about, like, why do I feel bad for something I didn't do? And then they get jammed up in guilt. Or they may be uncomfortable talking about race, so they want to kind of like just move on. And just because I don't see race, or I just want to deal with you as a person, which is really where we want to get to ultimately, right? But maybe I don't want to look at this other stuff we have to look at. And then for people of color, so many times in these settings, it's like, being the representative of the race, you know, being the one person in the law office at the meeting, a person of color who has to sort of, you know, risk being viewed as like the militant black woman, or like raising a hand to say, you know, I think we may have to discuss something that's happening in this office. Or, you know, so I became very interested in both as a human being and as a white man. Like, what is my role in all this? And I think I discovered that my role in all this is that of an ally. So how do I be an ally? How can I have my whole humanity and engage as a human being, but then acknowledge myself also as an external identifier, whether it's me as a white man or black woman, white woman, person with a disability, whatever that may be, those external identifiers. So that's what we're looking at with this work, and I better speed it up here because I think I'm going to go over time. So anyway, a number of years ago, I wrote a song. I'm a lifelong Pittsburgher, and in the wake of this Johnny Gamage event, you know, you learn about teaching young people to channel negative emotions into the arts. They're using the arts instead of going out and doing violence. And I remember when that happened with Johnny Gamage and the verdict and everything, I felt so angry, and I sought to channel that through my art. And so I wrote this song. It was an exploration about trust, and once trust is lost, how is that regained? So the song is called If a Dog Bites You, and it also portrays a vignette from a friend of mine, also in the city, who came here from Jamaica. So I guess they're going to play that in a second, but that's the backdrop for this song, If a Dog Bites You.
She got a little baby girl, and she's making a new life now. And she's 21, she's struggling just to keep her feet on the ground. So far away from her Jamaican hometown. She got herself a job right here in Pittsburgh, PA. And after the first week, they said you're doing great. After the second week, they said sorry, gotta let you go. But how's your baby though? How's your little girl? If a dog bites you, how you gonna trust him again and act like he likes you? Turn your back and he bites you again. She might be your enemy, but to your face she acts like a friend. So if a dog bites you, are you gonna trust again? I heard a white man say, why don't they trust us? I heard a black man say, is there any justice? If a man can be beaten by cops and killed for the color of his skin, how can you expect that man to trust the system he's living in? And if a dog bites you, how you gonna trust him again and act like he likes you? Turn your back and he bites you again. She might be your enemy, but to your face she acts like a friend. So if a dog bites you, are you gonna trust again, again? Why can you expect that man to trust the system he's dying in? If a dog bites you, are you gonna trust him again? I'm talking about so much injustice against the races. How can you expect people to trust the smiles on your faces? If a dog bites you, how you gonna trust him again? You might act like he likes you. Turn your back and he bites you again. She might be your enemy, but to your face she acts like a friend. So if a dog bites you,
I wish I could have brought the whole band tonight. Love to do it live for you all, but we had the CD, so yeah, that was a number of years ago, and my ideas, I guess, have kind of like developed and evolved since then. I still believe in every word I sang there, obviously, but I've learned, it's like, what's next level is my question, I guess, for us. What is next level when it comes to race relations? And people say, oh, you're talking about race again. What are you going to do about it? So my question is, much like Will's, I'm so captivated by Will's story about the chronology of events, how he happened to see these young women crying, and the story of their fathers, just, and how that led to this search for this man, who led to this letter and this changed vote. Is he an activist? Is that man an activist? Is somebody an activist? No, maybe a regular person. And how does social change occur? And through these stories. So those little moments, and I think, again, we're sitting at this opportunity, right? Looking at this opportunity, and I really want to bring folks together in a way that engages each person's whole humanity, so that we can be a white person, a black person, an Asian person, and a human being. But hold both of those simultaneously in some kind of way that creates a creative tension out of which we can actually make social change together. And I think last thing I just want to say is if that process is generative, if it engages us just the way we care about a loved one or a friend, it's personal, and if we do volunteer work, someone needs a home, Habitat for Humanity, let's build a home. But it feels good to do good, it feels good. And that's a very different generative emotion, I think, than the guilt of, oh, I feel bad for being white, but I don't have a problem with black people. Or like, or denial, like, I don't want to talk about this, makes me uncomfortable. Or they're just going to think of me this way. So we have an opportunity to come together with our whole humanity. So